You feel empty because you're chasing personal growth without knowing who you really are. You've been doing everything they said would make you feel whole. You've built routines. You've read every book that promised peace. You've chased productivity, healing, and progress like they were the only ways out of the fog inside you. And yet, when the noise fades and the world gets quiet, that same emptiness returns, heavier, sharper, more confusing than before. Maybe you've mistaken movement for meaning. Maybe you've been trying to fix what was never truly broken, only buried. The truth is, you can achieve every goal, wake up early, meditate, and still feel lost. Because somewhere along the way, your pursuit of becoming better became an escape from being real. You've been told that growth is the answer, that evolution is the path. But growth without direction is just another form of running. You keep upgrading your habits, changing your routines, rewriting your goals. But who are you doing it for? When you look in the mirror, do you see a person becoming whole or just someone wearing 1,000 masks, each one designed to hide the uncertainty beneath? We live in a culture that glorifies transformation but fears stillness. We're taught to be in constant motion, to hustle, improve, and reinvent, as if silence meant failure. But silence is where the truth waits. The kind of truth that doesn't flatter you, doesn't comfort you, but frees you. The kind that whispers that the life you're building might be standing on ground you've never truly known. You've been searching for answers in strategies, affirmations, and systems, but none of them can fill a void that was created by forgetting who you are. You've mistaken self-improvement for self-connection, and now, even as you climb higher, your soul feels disconnected from the person doing the climbing. What if what you truly need isn't an upgrade, but a reunion? What if real growth begins not with a new version of yourself, but with the courage to face the one you left behind? The world praises self-improvement. It celebrates those who hustle harder, who transform faster, who constantly chase a better version of themselves. But there's a silent trap hidden in that pursuit, the belief that the person you are right now is never enough. So you build layer after layer of goals, achievements, and rituals until you can no longer see where you end and the performance begins. Growth, when driven by insecurity, becomes self-rejection, wearing a motivational disguise. You tell yourself you're evolving, but deep down you're running. From your flaws, from your past, from the parts of you that don't look worthy of success. Every new habit becomes a brick in the wall that separates you from your own truth. You measure your worth by progress. You compare your timeline to others. You turn every quiet moment into a checklist. And even when you reach the milestones, the emptiness returns. Because what you're chasing isn't alignment, it's approval. You've built a beautiful prison made of better. This illusion is powerful because it feels like purpose. The routine gives you structure. The vision gives you hope. But what it really gives you is distance from the raw, unpolished self you were meant to understand, not abandon. The world has convinced you that constant self-optimization is the path to peace. But peace doesn't come from fixing yourself. It comes from accepting the truth beneath the fixing. When becoming better becomes a mask, growth stops being freedom and turns into a performance. You start saying the right words, showing the right mindset, living the right image, while something inside quietly fades. You forget that authenticity isn't the opposite of discipline, it's the foundation of it. You can't truly master your mind while you're at war with your identity. True transformation doesn't demand that you replace yourself. It demands that you meet yourself, fully, honestly, without disguise. Because every time you chase an ideal version without knowing the real one, you're not evolving, you're disappearing. There's a moment, often so quiet you barely notice it, when self-improvement stops being healing and starts becoming hollow. It happens the first time you silence your intuition because it doesn't fit the plan. the first time you dismiss your exhaustion as weakness, the first time you choose performance over presence, and convince yourself it's discipline. That's the moment you begin to lose yourself. You didn't mean to. You were only trying to rise, to evolve, to become the version of yourself that could finally feel proud. But somewhere between the routines and the goals, between who you were and who you were trying to become, you stopped hearing your own voice. You started living for an image, not a truth. Every decision, every affirmation, every morning ritual began to orbit around an invisible expectation, to always be improving, never arriving. You built your life on next, the next milestone, the next habit, the next transformation, and in doing so, you lost the stillness that makes life feel real. You forgot that growth isn't meant to erase you, it's meant to deepen you. But when you're constantly trying to fix yourself, you stop allowing yourself to feel. You turn emotions into data points, pain into productivity, reflection into performance. That's when the disconnection begins. You stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "What should I be doing?" You stop feeling your own life and start managing it. Every version of you becomes a project, not a person. You build a polished shell while the soul inside grows thinner, quieter, waiting to be acknowledged again. If you look closely, you can trace it back to the moment you started chasing worth through progress, the moment you replaced authenticity with achievement, the moment growth became a mirror that reflected everything you weren't instead of everything you could be. And maybe that's why even in your highest moments, something still feels missing. Because no matter how far you climb, the climb means nothing if you can't recognize the one who's reaching. You've spent so much time trying to build a stronger version of yourself that you forgot to ask the most important question: who is doing the building? You can stack new habits, adopt new mindsets, and reinvent your routines endlessly. But if you don't know the person behind them, your foundation will always tremble. Real growth isn't about adding more layers. It's about removing the ones that don't belong to you. You can't grow if you don't know who is growing. You can't discipline your mind if you don't understand what it's running from. You can't chase peace while rejecting the parts of yourself that need to be seen, not silenced. The real work starts when you stop trying to upgrade and start trying to understand. It's when you stop treating yourself like a problem to fix and start seeing yourself as a story to read, page by page, without skipping the uncomfortable chapters. Awareness is the hardest form of discipline. Anyone can force themselves to wake up early or grind harder, but few have the courage to sit in silence and face their own thoughts without flinching. Self-awareness isn't glamorous. It's not about control. It's about clarity. It's about understanding your fears, your patterns, your shadows, the parts of you that sabotage progress because they're tired of being ignored. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's the truth most people avoid. They call it motivation, but it's actually escape. They call it growth, but it's distraction. They keep chasing new beginnings without closing the wounds that made them run in the first place. The moment you begin to know yourself, growth stops being a race and starts being a return. You start to see that discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It's how you create structure around what truly matters to you, not what the world tells you should matter. You stop measuring progress by how much you've changed and start measuring it by how honest you've become. This is the real work, not becoming someone else, but remembering the truth that's been waiting beneath the noise. There comes a moment when you realize that growth isn't about collecting more pieces of yourself. It's about returning to the root, the quiet center beneath all the noise, the part of you that existed before the pressure to prove, before the need to perfect, before the world told you who to be. That's where wholeness begins. Not in achievement, but in alignment. You've been taught to chase progress like salvation. But what if peace isn't found in chasing, but in staying? You don't need to rebuild yourself from the ground up. You need to clear away what isn't you, the expectations, the comparisons, the endless need to earn your own worth. Because beneath all of that, you're still here, the original you, the one who's been quietly waiting for you to come home. Growth that doesn't lead you back to yourself is just another form of loss. The moment you start listening, really listening, to your inner life, everything begins to shift. You stop performing calm and start feeling it. You stop chasing validation and start seeking truth. You stop looking for light outside and realize it was never gone. It was just buried under the noise of who you thought you had to become. The return isn't glamorous. It's not a cinematic breakthrough or a sudden burst of clarity. It's slow, quiet, and deeply personal. It happens in moments of solitude, in still mornings, in the honesty of your own journal. It happens when you stop asking, "How can I change myself?" and begin to ask, "How can I understand myself better?" That's when growth starts serving your peace instead of your ego. You don't need to rebuild yourself. You need to meet yourself again. You need to look at your reflection without judgment and see not a work in progress, but a human being learning to live in truth. That's the real transformation, when growth no longer feels like running, but like coming home. You've spent years searching, in books, in plans, in new beginnings, for the person you thought you lost, but here's the truth. You were never gone. You were only buried. Hidden beneath expectations, identities, and versions of yourself that were trying too hard to be enough. The emptiness you've been running from wasn't proof of your absence. It was your deeper self asking to be seen again. You thought you needed to rebuild, but you only needed to remember. You thought you had to become someone new, but you only had to stop pretending to be someone else. The real you was always there, behind the masks, under the noise, waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice. Stillness reveals what chasing hides. When you stop striving to be more, you finally make space to feel who you already are. It's in that quiet space that everything real begins to return. Your clarity, your intuition, your inner strength. You remember the things that make you feel alive, not because they prove your worth, but because they express your truth. You don't need to become light, you already are. You don't need to find peace. It's what remains when you stop fighting yourself. You don't need to earn meaning. It unfolds naturally when you live in honesty. The real transformation isn't loud. It's subtle, sacred, and deeply personal. A gentle awakening to the fact that your worth was never missing, only misplaced. So let go of the idea that you must constantly become more. You're not a project to perfect. You're a presence to rediscover. Growth without self-connection is just noise, but growth rooted in awareness becomes freedom. Maybe life isn't about becoming the person your future needs. Maybe it's about remembering the person you already are, and finally having the courage to live as them. If this spoke to something inside you, don't rush to the next video. Don't scroll away or drown the silence with noise. Sit with what you felt. Let it settle. Let it breathe. Because that discomfort, that quiet ache in your chest, it isn't emptiness. It's recognition. It's your soul realizing it's been heard. You don't need to change who you are after watching this. Just notice yourself. Notice how often you try to fix what only needed to be understood. Notice how far you've come, not by becoming someone new, but by daring to see yourself clearly. If this message found you at the right moment, stay with this journey. This space is for those who are learning to grow without losing themselves, who are tired of chasing and ready to return. Subscribe, not just to a channel, but to a path. One where we stop running from who we are and start walking with who we've always been. Take a breath. You don't need to rush back to the noise. The work has already begun in the silence that follows.